Cool. I'll pretty much just rip into it. So starting here, we're just operating out of the demo company today, which is just a demo, exactly what it says it is. It's a demo organisation where we can do training and sort of put all sorts of stuff in and out to train people. So this is the Xero home screen, or dashboard it's called, if anyone hasn't seen this before. So it's the first screen that pops up when you log in with your email and password into Xero. So here on the left hand side you can see we've got two bank accounts. One's called an ASB Business Bank account and the other one's called BNZ Business Savings. So I'll click into this ASB one. Click on the reconcile screen, which is where you operate out of most of the time. So basically now I've clicked into this account, so all I'm seeing here is everything to do with this one account. So on the left hand side of the screen here is the bank statement lines, and on the right hand side is what we're going to do with it in Xero. So on the left hand side here, the bank statements, that's exactly as it comes through from your bank statements from your bank account. So if it's an EFTPOS transaction, it'll have where it's come from, what card it's on, etc. If it's a bill, it'll have whatever details you've put in when you made the payment through your online banking, that sort of thing. So how this information gets in here is a system called bank feeds. So Xero is connected to all the big banks in New Zealand, and every working day, Monday to Friday, I'm not sure what time in the morning, the data imports for the previous working day. So you spend something today on Tuesday, that'll come through Wednesday morning. If it's the Saturday, Sunday, that'll obviously be the Monday morning. One little tip we often like to emphasise to clients is just the regularity that people take care of reconciling in Xero. So often people can get behind, come to the last day of the month or the last day for GST, and all of a sudden you might have 300 lines or something to reconcile, which can be not that much fun when you're trying to get things done. So whatever works for different people, but generally we say at least sort of once a week, at least have a look what's in there and sort of see what you've got to deal with. So I'll pop back to the home screen or the dashboard here. So this little blue button pops up and says reconcile when there's anything fresh that's been imported from your bank account ready to reconcile. So I'll just click on that. It says we've got 12 items. So on the right hand side, I briefly mentioned before, this is how we're going to deal with things in Xero. So there's 4 tabs here in the reconcile screen. So there's match, just there, create, which it sits on by default, transfer, discuss, and there's a 5th one which is quite important in a bit we'll show you, is called find a match. So first one I'll step you through is the create, which is the most commonly used for the majority of clients, depending what sort of subscription they're on and how they sort of operate their business. So for this first transaction here, you can see 1st September, spent $100 warehouse stationery. So for this example, I'll assume it's spent on the EFTPOS card. If this was an actual transaction from the bank, it'll probably have a few more numbers or details from your EFTPOS card, but for this example, just use warehouse stationery. So the who box here is all about the context. So if I start typing in WAR, anything with those letters pops up. So you can see previously we've put these in here by on example on purpose for this example. So these ones are just misspelled, so we'll just click on the correct one here. So we have the full name there. So that's your account code in Xero you're putting it for. So for this example, let's assume it's ink for the printing, for your printer, or stationery of some sort. Click printing and stationery. Once you click the account, the little OK button pops up. So you could reconcile at this point if you wanted, but there are some additional things you can add. So in the Y box, that is you're able to put a description in there. So often it's useful for large payments and large amounts received. So if you wanted to put some detail in there for end of year accounts, if it's a large asset purchased, or if it's a an account that's been owing for a while or something, you can put details like that in there, so you can just literally type away. So if I just put stationery in there, you can see just here it's got 15% GST on expenses. So since the subscription set up with GST, as it's registered for GST, printing and stationery is an expense you can claim your GST on. So by default, it's just selected GST there. But if it was something which for some reason didn't have GST, which it usually would, you can just simply change that. But in the majority of the time, that's set up correct. This little box on the corner, left-hand corner here that says region, this is a functionality called tracking, which is really, really cool in Xero, which basically allows you to sort of divisionalize things. So quite a few of our rental property clients, which might have 5, 6, 7, 8 more sometimes properties, you can create tracking for each one of these. And so for the rent received for that property, for the insurance rates, etc., you apply tracking to all of these payments in and out, and it tracks. When we go to do reports, we can get all the property, all the expenses and income for one property under one account, and so forth for them all. So you can basically see property 1 has rental income of say 10,000 less all its expenses. So you can analyse the profitability across businesses a lot easier. So for this example, we've got this one's got set up with east, north, south, west. So let's say it's a company that operates across various areas. You could allocate it to your east side of the business, or if it's overheads. So for ones for say rental clients, if it was their bank fees or accountancy bill or whatever, you can leave that as unassigned, and that'll just put it into the normal account. So I'll click OK, reconcile that one. That disappears. So second example here, we've got same details, warehouse stationery, but this time it's $150. So I'm still in the create tab here. What I'm going to hit is I'm going to hit this little box here that says add details. Click on that, and this big box opens up, which sort of opens up a whole nother can of worms, allows us to add a lot more detail. So first thing to make sure is you've got the right contact here. So when you click add details and it drops down, it just automatically only picks up whatever's come through from the bank. So if it's some sort of weird electronic reference or something, that just dumps it in there and doesn't put warehouse stationery or whatever it actually is in there. So if it was something else, you'd just start typing warehouse stationery and that would pop back up for you. You can select it like that. So for this example, we're saying $150, let's say, on the FPOS card again, but some of it's business and some of it's private. So we'll say that $120 was printing, stationery, whatever, envelopes, books, etc. for the business. So we'll put that $120 to printing. Claim to GST there. That's the tracking box, which if you do have tracking set up would be there, but it doesn't show if you don't have it set up. So as you can see, bottom right corner, the total is currently 120, which doesn't match the 150, so it wouldn't let you reconcile at this point. So we'll put a private portion. So it was a couple books to read, something like that. So you get one for your quantity, and then in these little quantity and unit price columns, it's an inbuilt calculator. So for instance, if you went 5 minus 4, gives you 1. So for this example, I know the total is 150. Got 120 so far. A tab will enter, and that puts the 30 in there. So sometimes clients, there might be a payment to a supplier for say a couple $1,000, but it's a whole lot of different expenses. So you use this function and you can split it down. You can have as many lines as you want, 10, 20 lines, and split everything out. So I'll put that one to drawings. No GST. Got a total of 150 down the bottom there. Matches that. Have a quick look. Go save. And it matches the transaction, so it's all happy. the OK button has appeared. Click OK. That one disappears for us. So that's a quick sort of overview on coding some transactions in the Create tab. One thing I'll point out now is at the bottom of your reconcile screen, there's 10 transactions sit here on your reconcile tab before you have to jump to another page. So that's just a default from Xero. You can't change that, unfortunately. So there's a little tick box here called suggest previous entries. So you can either have this ticked or unticked. So what it is Xero is using its software to say, if I've just coded a payment to warehouse stationery to printing previously quite a few times, and it sees warehouse stationery come up and you've yet to code that through the Create, if you have the tick on, it'll put in here, see it's got Vodafone, because we've previously put Vodafone to telephone. So it's putting it in there, which is great if that's the right code. But for instance, say if you pay your bills to Vodafone, but then you go and buy a new phone through them or a new computer or something, and it needs to go to a different code, it's still going to have that set up as telephone. So you've got to be a little bit careful around that tool, and this is where sort of bank rules, which I'm about to go through, comes in. It can be a lot more accurate. So you can have the tick on if you do like that functionality, and you can sort of just go through and review things, and you can simply go in and say that was actually printing for some reason. You can simply go in and change that, so it's not a biggie. But if you have a lot of payments to different suppliers, just go to different expense codes and so forth, it can not be the best way to deal with things. So next transaction I'll run through is we've got a bank fee here from ASB, monthly account fee, let's say it's $10. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this tab here to create a bank rule. So I'll just click on this here. So this takes us into the bank rules area, and up the top you'll see we've got spend money, receive money, and transfer rules. So since that was a spend money, I've clicked entered it from, it's automatically put me in the spend money rule area, which is where we want to be. So the first step here is to, basically this is the most important part of the bank rule. It's when this information is on the bank statement, it's going to use this rule. So if the pay equals ASB and the description from the statement line equals monthly fee, it's going to put it to wherever we want to put it. But the only issue here is when you've got the equals option, got equals contains starts with and is blank. If you have equals and you complete the rule like this, it needs to exactly match that. So if for some reason ASB or your supplier don't put the exact same reference every month, it's not going to pick it up. So often I advise people, or use myself, you just use the contains function. So if the payee contains ASB, the description contains an monthly fee, any of that detail, it's going to pick it up. So now we need to choose our contact. ASB, we've already used ASB previously, so it's there. I'll just click on it. And we can put a description if we want. We know that goes to bank fees code, no GST. And then you can give the rule a title, really whatever suits you, and gives you the info you need. So we'll just call it monthly. Cool. So once you've done all that, you can do a quick check over, go save. So now we're back in the reconcile screen where it was before. We've got the same statement line we just created the rule from, and now you can see that it's got the OK box there ready for us to reconcile since we've set that rule up. So if you see that sitting like that for a rule and you're not sure if you want to apply it or you need to edit it, you can just click the edit rule or don't apply, and it'll take it away, and you'll be able to code it to wherever you'd like to code it. So I'll just go OK there. So now hopefully month after month when that comes up, you can just say OK and it'll do it for you. next one, we've got a payment to Vodafone here, $200. So we're going to create another bank rule, just add a bit of another step of complexity to it. So I'll change that to contains again. Let's say that's an account number. Vodafone. Used that before. So the step we're going to use here is to allocate a fixed value amount out of the payment to a certain place. So add a new line. And this is so for this example, we'll say that our monthly internet is the same amount for the business plan, let's say, and it goes through the same account as your personal phone, let's say. So we know that that the monthly internet telephone every month is $100. Sorry, 150. So 150. And anything on top of that varies based on your phone usage, etc. So we'll put private phone here. So this is saying that after we've allocated the first 150 to telephone, it's going to put any remaining amount to drawings. And if you have the 100% there, it's going to put the 100% remaining to drawings. Call that Vodafone monthly bill. Cool. Check that's all looking good. Click save. That's all popped up, ready to reconcile again. The rule's correct, so you just click OK there. Another example, to create another type of bank rule here, we've got BP fuel card for $100. I'll click create again. So this example we're using is probably the most common use for bank rule splitting amounts out. It's the percentage function. So you might have a fuel card and your vehicle might be 80% business, 20% private. So you claim 80% of the repairs, fuel, rego, so forth. So I'll change these to contains because it's more likely to pick it up. BP, haven't used BP before, so you just click out of that and that'll add the contact. So I need two lines here, so just click add new line. So this I'll call 80%. Click motor vehicle. And then this is the key box here, the percentage. So I said 80% business, 80% there. Drawings. No GST, and it's telling us it must equal 100%. So once I get the 20 in there, that's all good. And I can call that BP. Fuel card. One thing I probably should point out here is that it's got the option here to target multiple bank accounts. So if you had a bank, your check account, savings, and say credit card as well, you can choose to either run it just on the one check account where you pay the majority of your bills, or on all the accounts, or your credit card as well. So that could be quite useful. So I'll just run that just on the check account. Click save. And it's popped up, ready to reconcile. Cool. So that's creating bank rules. Next sort of focus area is in the transfer tab here. So we're just moving from the create to the transfers. So transfers in Xero is all about when there's transfer from one account that's in Xero to another bank account which is also in Xero. Can also relate to credit cards and farmlands, that sort of thing, that are in Xero. So as I mentioned before, on the dashboard we've got a business check account there, which is with ASB, and the BNZ savings, the 050 suffix there, which is also in Xero. Jump back into my check account. You can see the details here is transfer savings for $1,000 on the 7th. If you're not sure which account you've transferred that to, jump into the savings account, reconcile screen here. Yep, same day, come from the bank account there, which is the bank account number of your check account, $1,000, that matches, cool. So you know that that is, we want to use the transfer tab. If you have more than one bank account, more than two, sorry, bank accounts or credit cards set up, it'll just be a little drop down option here. You'll be able to choose which account it's gone to. So here I'll just click OK. And the key thing with the transfers in Xero is that you only need to do it on one side. So since I've clicked the transfer there, I'll just refresh this tab. And then see how it automatically wants to match it here. Because I've done it on the other side, it's come through and told it that it's got $1,000 received from your other bank account on the 7th. And you'll just click OK. And that reconciles that. Jump back into here. Cool, that's my little bit done.
It is indeed. Thanks, Fraser. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, good. Can I ask a question? What sort of reports can you get out of the system so that you can see what you've done?
Yep.
Just what you're showing. I want to look at the whole lot.
Yep, you can get a whole lot of reports. So
Okay.
come and see us afterwards. We can customize certain reports depending on what sort of info you want to get out. Yep.
That's fine. I mean, I've got to play with this thing and see what they feel like. So I've got to get online and see what it does first. So,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, all good.
Do you suggest having the two tabs open so you can flip between them without having Xero open, like to make it easier rather than just going in and out?
Yeah, for sure.
Right, okay,
Yep.
so that's just
Yeah, that's really useful.
Yep, so you could have your two bank accounts open at the same time or
so that's-
whatever suits. Yep.
Yep. Any other questions? Great. So Fraser's taken you through the Create tab and the Transfer tab. So when something isn't in Xero, so I'm just going to go now through the Match tab. So that's when something is already in Xero and you simply need to match it. So that might be where you have a sales invoice that you've created or you've got a bill. And it's really important if there is something in Xero that you do match it, because if you don't and you go to the Create tab and you create basically another transaction, so you're duplicating it and then it can get an invoice fee down the other end. So we'll just go through a few examples. Our first one is a nice simple one. So we've just created a sales invoice to Arabica Cafe for $1,000 and they've paid us $1,000. So Xero matches the amounts, and you can see here it's in green, and so all you would need to do is check that that's correct and click OK. But you can see there it says 2 other possible matches. So what it's done here is it's actually found 3 invoices for $1,000. So what you would do there is just click on that and check that you've got the right one. In this case it did, but you can see them listed down there. Select the one that it is, and then you would simply go green, and then you know that you can click OK. So that's just something to be aware of, that it will match amounts, but if there's more than one invoice for that amount, it might not be the correct one. So another scenario you may have is if a customer only partially pays you for an invoice. So we've got an example here where we've invoiced Marine Systems $2,000, but they've only paid us $1,500. So Xero can't match the amounts because they're different. So what we use here is actually matching a different amount, but it's not the one we want. So click on Find and Match, and you'll see here there's a search function at the top there, and you can search by amount, you can search by customer, etc. In this case, obviously we're going to search by Marine Systems, and you'll see there the invoice there that we want to select. So we'll click on that, but it's not allowing us to reconcile that because obviously it's only part of that payment. So what we do is click on Split. Xero will automatically put that $1,500 against the full amount and tell you the balance owing. So that's okay. So you click Split, and then it will let you reconcile. So you just click OK. So another scenario you may have is where a customer pays you for more than one invoice. So, which is always good. So we've got an example here where we've got Smart Agency, and we've actually invoiced them $2,000 and $2,500, and they've paid us $4,500. But again, Xero can't match it because the amounts are different. So you use the Find and Match tab again, and we will just type in Smart. You generally only have to type in the first few characters, and it will come up with suggestions. There they are there. So we'll just select both of those because we know those are correct, and you'll see that it goes green, and so you can just click OK. Now, you may have come across a situation where a customer pays you and they're just slightly out. So in our example here, we've invoiced Arabica Cafe for $500.50, and they've paid us $500. If they're out by less than $1, then treat that as a minor adjustment. If it's more than $1, it's best to treat it as an overpayment, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So we're going to treat this as a minor adjustment. But you can see there, it's all green, and it's saying there's many matches because there must be a lot of things in there for $500. So we'll just click Find and Match, and we'll pop in Arabica Cafe so that we can find that invoice. And we'll select it, and you'll see that even though we've selected it, it's not going green because we're 50 cents out. And if you scroll down to the bottom there, you can see that little adjustment there. So we will just select Minor Adjustment and put in the 50 cents, and then it will go green when it's put in. And just to say, what happens with that is that actually goes to an account on the balance sheet, which is generally called rounding, and we will write that off at the end of the year. And that's why it's a good idea just to keep it below dollar amounts, because you don't want a big figure in there. You just want about $20 or something at the end of the year to write off. So once that's put in, we can just click Save and reconcile. So I mentioned before about overpayments. Now, there are overpayments and there are prepayments, and they're essentially the same thing, but we recommend that you use overpayments, and the reason for that is they're much easier to track. They actually go to the customer's contact field, they will show in the customer statement, and they'll also show in the accounts receivable report, which the prepayments don't. They still work just fine, but they're a bit harder to track, so use overpayments. So in this example, we've invoiced Rex Media for $3,000, and they've paid us $3,500. So again, it can't match because the amounts are different. So we use Find and Match, and we'll pop in Rex Media, and that invoice will hopefully appear. So we'll select it, and of course it's not going green because we've got that extra 500. So what we do here is under New Transaction, we will just select Receive Money because we've received obviously $500 too much. We then need to change where it says Direct Payment. We need to change that to Overpayment. And as Fraser mentioned before, what's really important is in that field where it says From, because Xero will basically just copy whatever text is on the bank statement. It won't link it necessarily to your contact. So what it will do is if we just left it like that, it would create a new contact and pop that $500 next to that new contact. And therefore, how do you track that? Because you've suddenly got the two contacts and the $500 isn't where it's supposed to be. So take out that text and start typing in Rex Media, find your contact, and you know it's going to go to the right place. It will automatically put it to accounts receivable, so just click
You can't
Save.
edit it.
No, you can't edit that. So you just click Save there.
Oh, put a description.
Oh, put a description. It's like one of those things, this is what we meant to happen. It won't do it unless you've got a description in there. Now, so that's all green, so we'll just OK all that. Now, what do you do when you've received an overpayment? You've basically got two choices. You can either credit the customer's next invoice. Now that's good if you know you're going to be invoicing them again, and particularly if it's a large amount, you can just simply credit it. What you do there is when you create the next invoice, when you click Approve, a little dialog box will come up and say along the lines of, hey, you've got an overpayment, do you want to apply it? You click Yes, and that's all done. and that will show on their statement, so it just keeps that paper trail. The other thing you can do is refund it, and we're just going to show you how you do that now. You basically need to get into that overpayment. So to find it, easiest way is to go to contacts. We'll talk about contacts in a little while, but here just go into contacts and you'll see a search function there. So we're going to search for Rex Media and click into that. And on the left hand side is basically all the activity to do with that contact. And so if we scroll down, we'll be able to see the $500 there, the overpayment. So right on the right hand side is a little arrow, drop down arrow. If you click on that and select view, that will open up that overpayment. Towards the left, at the bottom there, is make a cash refund. So just check the amount is correct. It will automatically put the full amount in there. But obviously if you just wanted to pay part of that initially for some reason, you could just change that amount. You put in the date that you're going to make the payment, and you put the account that the payment's going from, and then you just click, I think that's okay, or add refund, and that means that in Xero, that's done, that's refunded. But of course you haven't actually paid anything yet, so you need to remember to log into your internet banking, make that payment, and then the next day, when that payment shows, Xero will be able to match it, so it will just show as green. Okay. So sometimes it's I get into this as well, you think, oh, it's done, don't Xero, that's fine. You've actually forgotten to do the payment. Now, what happens if you're reconciling things and you're not sure about what to do with something? So if we just fire back into that reconciliation screen, we've got here a transaction to Dunedin Auto Repair, and you think, oh, yep, I remember that, that was a repair to the company vehicle. But you're thinking, yeah, do I put that against motor vehicle expenses or do I put that against repairs and maintenance, and you're not quite sure? So there's a discuss tab on the end there. You can just type a note in there, which might be as simple as help, don't know what to do, and save it. There isn't, unfortunately, an automatic connection to us. We don't get an email about that. So you would have to email us to let us know that you've got, half a dozen discuss points in there. But it is useful as well if perhaps you have an admin person who is doing your reconciliation and they need to check something with you. The same thing applies. Or if you're just going through them and you want to sort of bookmark things. You're going through the whole reconciliation and you think, oh, I'll come back to that in a minute, and you write yourself a note. So it's got a few uses of that. But hopefully at some point there will be an automatic email to save you then having to email. So the other thing is, what if you have reconciled something and you think you've made a mistake, and you're like, well, I reconciled it, where's it gone? So what you're looking for here is a screen called Account Transactions. And there's actually about 4 different ways to get into it, so I'll just show you one and then I'll show you the others. If we do first from the dashboard, and if you just click on the name of the account, that takes you directly into Account Transactions. So that's the screen you're looking for. You've got the search button on the right hand side there, and you can search just about anything. You can search by the amount, an exact amount, or a minimum and a maximum. You can search a date range or an exact date, an invoice number, description, contact, anything you can think of you can search. So let's use Fraser's example, the first transaction he reconciled, which was to Warehouse, which I think was for $100 for printing ink. And maybe you look at that and you think, it wasn't printing ink, it was stamps, say. That should have gone to postage. So you can search in here either by the amount, say, or warehouse stationery. Click OK, and it's narrowed the search down there. So when we found the one we need, you just click on it to drill down into it. You then you have a couple of choices here. Up in the top right it says Options. Now you can either select Remove and Redo, which pops it straight back onto the reconciliation screen, so you can just start over. Sometimes that's helpful. Or you can select Edit Transaction, and there you can just, it's probably you're there, so you may as well. And so you can just alter that account. So we'll just do that now, change that to postage or something else that it might be from the warehouse
You can
stationery.
change it to whatever.
Yeah.
We haven't got a postage in this chart of accounts. It's quite a simplified one. All say office expenses maybe.
Yeah.
You can simply cut and
That will do fine, and then we'll update that. Now I just mentioned that there were lots of ways to get into that account transaction screen. So from the dashboard, so I'm doing it backwards there, Fraser. He was right there. The three vertical dots, you click on that, it brings up a little menu, and account transactions is one of them. The other way, if you're in the reconciliation screen, you'll see probably the easiest way for you is it's just 3 tabs along. Also up here where it says manage account, there's a little drop down menu there, and then you've got account transactions. So if you can't remember one, there's loads. So that pretty much covers bank reconciliations. Anyone got any questions before we go on to GST? Yeah.
With that discuss one, does that just sit there?
Yes.
It doesn't go anywhere?
It doesn't.
Just move it from back to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of, it has got limited uses because it doesn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But it can be useful in certain cases. To remind yourself, yeah, we have some people, if they have not reconciled regularly and they've got 300 sitting there, and they're going through and oh yeah, got to check that, got to check that, got to check that, they can just write little notes. But at the moment, it does just sit there.
And what if you get like an underpayment by say $2, so you can't just, so you probably split it and advise the customer?
Yes, yeah, it's, I mean, you could treat it as a minor adjustment, or you could, depending on the amount, you could let them know, let them know the next time, or just ask. I mean, if it's a minor amount, it's probably not too much to worry. If they've underpaid by $500, I would be saying, hey, and send them a statement. Yeah. Anything else before I move on? So we're just going to look now at GST returns. So the great thing with Xero is that you can do your GST return in Xero and file it with the IRD using your My IR login. So you're going to need your My IR login details handy. Number one thing to remember with a GST return is you must reconcile your accounts up to that period end date. Otherwise, it's not going to be accurate. So if you hear anything from us, it will be reconcile your accounts. So how you find it is you go to your accounting tab at the top there, and GST return will be about halfway down. Now, it will look slightly different depending on whether one is due or not. So if one was due, it would show as a draft. In this case, one isn't due, but you can always just click on that text that Fraser's showing you, preview period so far. So we'll click on that. It basically takes you to the same screen, so you can just see any time during the period, you know, how's it looking. Now, obviously, there's your little warning, you have not reconciled. So, just in case you've forgotten, there are reminders everywhere. So that figure top right is the amount so far that you would have to pay or be refunded. So what you basically are going to be doing is a common sense check. So there's an audit report tab there. Click on that. What that's doing is it's listing all your expenses with GST, and then all your income with GST, and then all the transactions for that period with no GST. So you need to just go through them and check that the account makes sense with the details. And look for things that might be obvious errors, like wages with GST, or sales without GST, or if you've purchased something like you've bought a vehicle and you know you've got this huge expense, have a look, make sure it's there. So you're really just checking things. If you spot an error, you can drill down into it from this screen and fix it, and then go back. When you have checked everything and you're happy, right at the bottom, that's a long list, you would save as final. It would then come up with a box, hopefully, which will say file with the IRD. if that's right, because if one isn't due, it's not doing it for us. So imagine that will say,
It's pretty hard to miss.
I was going to say, it's right there, you can now file with the ID. So you just click on that, and that will whiz you over to your My IR login. You need to pop in your details, and then it will whiz you back to this screen. And then you know, yay, I've filed my GST return. But again, you haven't paid anything. So remember that you need to go into your internet banking, make the payment, and then it's all done. Just one thing to say, if you're starting out doing the GST returns, it's often a good idea just to get us to oversee it, so we can just check your first few for you to make sure there's no errors. Just a good idea to do that. So that's GST returns. Anything about those before we move on?
It's 2 months.
Pardon?
Because it's 2 monthly.
It depends what basis you're on. Most people are 2 monthly. That's right. Yeah. Sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's monthly, but generally it's 2.
And does Xero have the capacity, if you've made an error on a previous return and you correct a transaction?
Yes, so if when we do them, we generally lock the period so that you can't go back and make a change. But if you did, then it would actually correct it and pop it onto your next return as a late claim.
So just at the top of the screen here where it says we've got 3 tabs at the moment, GST, provisional, that's talking about your provisional tax, but you can ignore that. Your audit report, if there was, say, so we're doing here August to September, if there was something in, say, April that you remembered you put it the wrong place, whatever, had to fix it, and you'd edited or removed and redone that, another box will pop up on the end here showing late claims.
Yeah.
And then if there is any late claims for the period, another box pops up here, include late claims, and if it's more income to return, adds it on to your GST to pay, or if it's less, or if it's expenses to claim. If it's just in and out from one expense to another, or one income to another, it will show as the late claims, but they'll net off. You just put a GST there.
Yeah.
So you'll still be able to see that. So you can click and look at the late claims if you're not sure, but it'll just be a nil GST.
I just had my time warden come in, so we're just running a little bit close to time. So I'll just go through our last bit, which is contacts. So we looked at contacts briefly before with Rex Media, but if you just click on contacts and all contacts, what it's showing you down the left-hand side is the number of customers and the number of suppliers that you have. It's also showing you groups. You can set up groups. We'll go through that on a future session. There's really just 2 important things to remember with your contacts, both of them being pretty vital. The one is keep them up to date. It sounds obvious, but if you're using, particularly if you're out in the field, you're using your mobile app and you need to ring somebody, you want to make sure that phone number's correct, and you want to make sure that you've obviously got the right email addresses, etc. So the way we do that, let's just go into any contact. ABC Furniture, I think, is probably a good one. On the right hand side, it will tell us the information that we've got, and it should be coming up with something, which is good. If it's not, Xero's not playing ball. But if we click on edit, this is where you can add all your contact information. So you can add any sort of personal contact details there. You can also add bank account numbers, and that's really good if you pay your creditors through batch payments, which again is something we'll do on a future session. You can also put defaults in there. So let's say you have a default to pay your suppliers on the 20th of the month. If you've got one particular supplier who needs to be paid on the 7th, you can pop it in here, and that will override the default. So once you're happy and you've got all the information you want in there, you just click save. So that's the first thing, keep it up to date. The second thing is to keep it tidy, because as Fraser was showing you before, it's really easy to create more than one contact for one supplier or one customer through spelling mistakes. So if we start typing in warehouse, use that as our example, we've got 3 there. You've got warehouse, say stat, warehouse stat, and warehouse stationery. So you don't want all those, you just want one. So what you can do is basically merge them. One thing to point out though is that the one that you keep needs to be the one that's got the phone numbers and email addresses, because although everything else will be merged, those things will be lost if you chose one that didn't have those. So let's say, for example, I mean, in our example here, that's the correct spelling, so we want to keep that one. But even if that was warehose stat, we would still keep that one because it's got the email address, and then you can always go in and edit that name later. So what we do in this case, we don't want those top two, so we'll just select the top two and then go and click merge. We then type in and find the one we want and just click merge, and that's done. And then so it just keeps it tidy.